What if I were to tell you that the very basis of Kody Brown's so-called family empire was constructed on a revealing secret, a trust fund in plain sight, skillfully sheltered from most of the sister wives? And what if I were to tell you it wasn't the show, the homes, or even the wives that split the family asunder, but the money? Well, fasten your seatbelts, because this is the tale of how a courtroom battle compelled Kody to come clean, how Christine uncovered all he attempted to hide, and how the sister wives' family might never be able to get over this deception. This is not merely drama. This is a scandal that turns everything around. The courtroom was filled to the brim. The media, fans, and even relatives attended to see what many believed would be a mundane legal hearing. But when the judge insisted Kody reveal a secret trust fund, things took a dramatic turn. Kody Brown, once the self-righteous patriarch who insisted he was acting in his family's best interests with honesty, suddenly seemed shaken. The man who had always set the stage for things looked cornered. His excuse machine and charm weren't working today. The court was demanding openness, and Christine was about to provide it. The drama was stifling. There were whispers for years online about Kody pumping money into Robyn's home, and it had been dismissed as hearsay. Now the reality would be exposed in black and white, and Christine was at the center of it all. The courtroom scene opens. The air in the courtroom was charged with tension. The walls, which were once lined with silent spectators and legal brains, now hummed with media representatives, fans, and family members who had gathered to see history unfold. Everyone was aware that this was more than another legal fight. It was going to be the turning point in the many years of messy drama of Kody Brown and his broken-up family. At the center of the drama sat Kody, shoulders rigid, jaw set, the one-time flamboyant and self-assured patriarch of sister wives, with his golden curls and booming voice, now seemed diminished, nearly trapped. He had established himself on control. Control over his wives, control over the family's budget, control over their public persona. Today, however, all of that was about to come apart. The judge's voice rang out over the courtroom, clear and authoritative. "Mr. Brown, the court requires complete openness. Inform us regarding the trust fund." The phrases sliced like a knife. Whispers went through the room. A trust fund? The fans had speculated for years that Kody had been stashing money, but until this moment, there was never evidence. The deafening silence that followed was shattered only by the click of cameras as they snapped shots of Kody's stunned face. Kody's panic? Kody fidgeted in his chair, his customary swagger missing in action. He looked toward Robyn, the wife who had been his longtime favorite, silently begging for reassurance. But Robyn's face was ashen, her lips compressed. She knew, as everyone else in that room did, that the secret was out. For years, Kody had waved off rumors of secret money, claiming that the finances of the family were fair and shared equally. He talked frequently about their family pot, a shared pot that supposedly supplied the needs of all. But Christine had already intimated that not all was equal as Kody wished to think. And now, with the judge insisting on answers, Kody could spin no more. The courtroom leaned in, eager for the truth. Kody attempted to clear his throat, but his voice broke. "I don't know what's being suggested here. This trust fund? It's not what it seems like." But his pause did more harm than good. If there was one thing Christine Brown had ever been, it was ready, and she was set to blow the whole thing wide open. Christine steps in. On the other side of the room, Christine sat quietly with her own strength and resolve that stood in stark contrast to Kody's disintegrating composure. She had abandoned him years before, leaving behind the plural marriage that had exhausted her emotionally and financially. But she hadn't left without taking something with her. Christine had been able to carry with her years of information, invoices, and a resolve to protect herself as well as the other wives and children left behind. As soon as the judge turned it over to her, Christine didn't hesitate. She stood straight, grasping a fat binder packed with papers. Her voice didn't waver, but with such force behind her words that everyone in the room straightened up in their chairs. "Your Honor," she started, "we were all told for years that our family finances were the same, that all that we earned and put in went into one pot. But what we didn't know was that Kody secretly established a trust fund. And that trust fund wasn't for us, it was just for Robyn and her kids. The room burst out in gasps. Even those who had questioned Christine earlier could not ignore the gravity of her words now. The bombshell lands. Christine opened her binder and started to pull out papers, bank statements, deeds for property, and even records for TLC payments, all demonstrating a clear pattern. Money derived from the show, from land sales and from partnerships didn't flow into the so-called family pot. Rather, it was diverted into a trust fund, where Robyn's name repeatedly turned up as the main beneficiary. The figures were astronomical, close to $750,000 stashed away, utterly concealed from the other wives. Christine's tone didn't shake. We struggled. Janelle had to borrow money to pay bills. Meri invested everything in her company. I worked for years to have my children taken care of. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn lived in luxury, with their house paid for and their children's futures guaranteed. And we had no idea. None. All eyes were on Kody. His face was flushed, his fingers drumming against the side of the table. He needed to talk, to tell his side of things. But Christine had the proof. And the judge wasn't going to listen to general excuses. Pressure from the judge. The judge leaned forward, his voice stern and unyielding. Mr. Brown, is this true? Did you create a trust fund that excluded the other wives and their children? The burden of the question hung there. Kody's reputation, his name, his family, everything now hinged on his response. But what was he going to say? The documents were irrefutable. The dates aligned, the figures were precise. And the signatures were his. For the first time in a long time, Kody Brown was utterly trapped. I did what I believed was best, he stammered at last, his voice almost inaudible. I was attempting to safeguard the family's future. Robyn, she was the one I trusted to handle it. Gasps returned to the courtroom. Safeguard the family's future. Or Robyn's? The audience reacts, journalists wrote furiously. Cameras focused on Christine's unflinching face, and murmurs spread through the onlookers. To observers who had been following sister wives for more than a decade, this was the final betrayal confirmed. The man who promised to be fair, who taught about coming together and equality, had been secretly investing finances in one wife's home. Christine didn't taunt, she didn't shout, she just allowed the truth to be itself. And in the quiet, it was stunning. Why this moment matters. This wasn't about money, it was about betrayal, favoritism and broken vows. For years Christine, Janelle and Meri had wondered why they questioned Kody's decisions. They questioned why Robyn always seemed to have financial security. And they went without. Now they knew. This trust fund wasn't financially motivated. It was evidence of Kody's favoritism, evidence that he cared more about one household than any other. And within a plural marriage founded upon the principles of equality, that favoritism was the ultimate transgression, the beginning of the end. As the courtroom fell into quiet, the truth hit home. Kody Brown's dynasty was crumbling. The guy who previously bragged about having a huge cohesive family now stood revealed as one who lied, manipulated and concealed the truth. And Christine, she wasn't merely the wife who departed. She was the wife who revealed it all. The wife brave enough to pull back the curtain and show the world what Kody did not wish for everyone to know. The trust fund shocker wasn't the culmination. It was the start of the end. Because once the truth was known, there was no turning back. Christine did not come to the courtroom with her hands tied. She came with her arms full of a fat binder, years of paperwork, bank statements, receipts, and property records that she had accumulated silently during her time in the family. This wasn't paperwork. This was evidence. Christine disclosed that Kody had established a trust fund worth almost $750,000. This fund, she said, was first presented as a means of preserving family wealth. But what actually transpired left people stunned. The funds went almost exclusively to Robyn and her children. Christine described how the other wives, herself, Janelle and Meri, had all struggled financially, working multiple jobs or business ventures, just to stay afloat in their own households. Robyn's family, on the other hand, had stability, a house paid for in full, and financial security due to money secretly transferred from joint accounts into the secret trust. Her words were direct, adamant, and impossible to miss. Kody vowed equality. He said we were one family. But what really happened is, we gave, and he was building a future for just Robyn and her children. The moment she stood up, the courtroom had already been shaken when the judge insisted that Kody reveal his secret trust fund. But the mood changed totally when Kody Brown stood up. The grumbling ceased. Everyone looked at her. She was no longer just any other ex-wife. She was the whistleblower. In her hands was a fat binder, so plain-looking that at first sight it looked nearly innocent. But within that binder was history going back years. Every receipt, every bank statement, every piece of property paper Kody had surreptitiously amassed. To some, it was mere paperwork. To Kody, it was evidence. Evidence of betrayal. Evidence of deceit. Evidence that the man who gave sermons on equality was never operating on an even playing field. As she dropped the binder onto the table in front of the judge, the thud resounded like a hammer falling on the last nail in Kody's painstakingly built empire. Why Kody collected the evidence? It was a question many people were asking. How did Kody acquire this information? Why did she keep it for so long? The response was straightforward. She had existed for decades in a union that compelled her to challenge everything. She was informed for years to trust the process, to trust Kody's leadership, and to trust the family plan. But Kody came to understand that something wasn't right. She saw how Janelle constantly juggled work and loans to cover her children's needs. She saw how Meri's business dreams were often unsupported. She lived through her own financial struggles, scraping by while still trying to provide stability for her kids. And yet, Robyn's family never really struggled. Robyn's home was larger, newer, and already paid off faster than anyone else's. Her children had opportunities the others didn't have. When Kody questioned things, she was dismissed. It's all equal, Kody would say. But Kody's instincts knew better, so she began tracking things. Quietly, carefully, secretly, and by the time she exited the marriage, she had assembled years of evidence. Opening the binder, Kody opened the binder in court. The first thing she pulled out was a bank statement. She held it up for the judge to read. This, she said firmly, is a payment by TLC for the Sister Wives television program. This was money that was intended to go into the family account. But this is where it went, into an account that is directly linked to the trust fund. The judge nodded, reading the page. Kody went on, page after page. She spread out the paper trail. Property sales from Coyote Pass, business income, even checks from appearances and book signings, all funneling into the same secret stream of money that flowed directly into Kody and Robyn's trust. The courtroom gasped. It wasn't speculation anymore. It was documented fact. Kody's calm, Kody's collapse. Kody's voice was calm. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't upset. She didn't have to be. The facts resounded louder than fury ever could. Kody fidgeted meanwhile. His hands waved, his jaw clenched, and beads of sweat dripped from his temples. The man who was once so proud of dictating every family discussion, now had no control. Kody was speaking, and there was nothing he could do to halt her. For years, Kody explained, flipping another page, we were assured that everything went into a family pot. That was the rule. That was the promise. But these records indicate otherwise. This wasn't a family pot. It was a funnel. And all of it came to one home. Robyn's home. The emotional burden. The courtroom audience wasn't merely responding to figures. They were responding to the betrayal those figures embodied. Picture devoting your whole adult life to a marriage with the promise of equality and fairness, only to learn the cash you contributed was quietly being set aside for the kids of someone else. That while your children wore hand-me-downs, the kids in some other home had security and comfort. That while you toiled through nights, another wife slept peaceful. That's what Kody's binder demonstrated. And the psychological impact of that discovery crashed like a tidal wave. Janelle's struggles suddenly made sense. Meri's isolation wasn't just emotional. It was financial. Kody's own sacrifices were now written in black and white as evidence of a lie she had lived under for decades. The judge's reaction. The judge leaned forward, visibly upset at what he was witnessing. Judges hear money disagreements daily. But this was different. This wasn't merely a dispute over property. It was years of intentional money favoritism under the guise of family togetherness. Mr. Brown. The judge snapped. These records indicate a recurring pattern. Why were these monies not accounted for? Why were only one wife and her kids named as beneficiaries? Kody attempted to speak, but Christine interrupted her, her tone sharper this time. Because he never meant for us to gain. He said we were equals, but these documents show we never were. The judge's gavel came down on the desk to quiet the mounting disturbance in the gallery, but the cat was already out of the bag. Christine's motive, not revenge, but justice some might have questioned. Was Christine doing this out of revenge? But anyone who observed her that day could plainly see the answer. This wasn't about destroying Kody for personal gratification. This was about justice, fairness, and making sure her children, and the children of the other wives, weren't written out of their own family history. I didn't bring this to the fore to embarrass him, Christine asserted to the judge, her tone unyielding. I brought this to the fore because our children need to know the truth. They need to know that they were just as important as Robyn's. That sentence cut hard. It wasn't just about dollars and cents anymore. It was about worth. Which kids were more important to Kody? The trust fund provided an answer in pain. Robyn's were. The binder symbol as Christine went through the binder, page by page. It was no longer just a bunch of financial documents. It had become a symbol of her strength, her determination, and her defiance at not being silenced anymore. For years, Christine had been the complaining wife, the unsatisfied wife, the wife who gave up on Kody. But here, before the court and the world, she was the one who possessed the truth. She was the one holding the receipts, literally. And that binder full of years of concealed lies was the burden that finally brought down Kody's empire. Robyn's silence. As Christine spoke, everyone looked over every so often at Robyn. But Robyn remained silent. Her expression was unreadable, but her silence shouted volumes. She had always sworn she never wanted special treatment, that she just wanted to be included in the family. But Christine's binder revealed a different tale, one in which Robyn gained from a system that shut out the other wives. Her silence at that time was incriminating. She didn't deny, she didn't defend herself. She just sat there, allowing Kody to bear the brunt. And in that, she validated what so many had always suspected. She knew. Christine's closing words. She closed the binder after almost an hour of showing proof. The courtroom fell silent. She glanced at the judge, then at Kody, and then at the crowd. We lived a lie, she said. And the truth is right here. No more secrets. No more pretending. This is what really happened. Her words hung in the air, heavy and irrefutable. Why this changed everything. Christine's binder didn't only show numbers. It reshaped the entire story of the Brown family. It confirmed that the marriage wasn't only emotionally unequal, but financially stacked. It emboldened the other wives to ask for explanations, and it provided fans with closure they had been craving for years after deliberating about favoritism. For Kody, it was the moment he lost control of the narrative. For Robyn, it was the moment her reputation as the innocent wife was destroyed. And for Christine, it was the moment she took her power, not only as an ex-wife, but as the truth-bearer who finally revealed everything. Startled, Kody tried to protect himself. He maintained the trust fund had been misinterpreted, that it was always intended for the family, that Robyn's signature on the paperwork was just paperwork. But Christine was not about to give up. She cited precise dates and dollar amounts, profits from TLC show episodes, sales of land from the Coyote Pass home, and even earnings from family-owned businesses, all into the trust without the other wives' consent. The judge pushed again. Mr. Brown, why is Robyn named the main beneficiary? Why are the other wives, or their children, not listed in this trust? Kody stalled. He fidgeted in his seat, glanced over at Robyn for support, and mumbled something about family unity. But his justifications were crumbling. The man who had once demanded obedience and loyalty from 4 women was now helpless in the face of reality. The pressure mounts. The courtroom was quiet, but the quiet wasn't serene. It was dense, oppressive, bearing down on Kody Brown like an unendurable burden. The proof Christine had presented was incontrovertible. The binder of reports had already stunned the room. And now the focus fell back on Kody. Years he had spent boasting that he was the loudest man in every room. The last word. But here in this courtroom he was not in control. He was not the questioner. He was the one who should be questioned. The words of the judge were biting, ringing out like a hammer. Mr. Brown, you've heard the evidence. These documents show a pattern of financial redirection. Why were these funds hidden from the other wives? Kody shifted uncomfortably. His shoulders hunched, his jaw tightened, and the confident smirk he once used to charm audiences and control family discussions was nowhere to be seen. For the first time, the patriarch of the Brown family looked powerless. The first excuse, Kody scooted closer to the microphone, choking back a cough as though attempting to call up authority he no longer possessed. His voice wavered in pitching a note. Your Honor, I believe this has been misinterpreted. The trust fund wasn't intended to leave anyone out. It was for safeguarding the family's assets, for securing our earnings. He hesitated, as if awaiting the courtroom to nod in agreement, to grant him the doubt. But what he got was narrowed eyes, gritted jaws, and the ensuing silence wasn't benevolent. It was suspicious. Christine shook her head, turning to another page in her binder. She didn't have to say anything yet. The evidence already made Kody's words ring false. Christine strikes back. At last, Christine did speak. Her voice even but incisive. Protecting the family's assets? She echoed. Then why is Robyn's name on it as the sole beneficiary with her children? Why are my kids nowhere to be found? Why is Janelle's family nowhere to be found? Why is Meri erased? The courtroom nodded in understanding. These were not minor mistakes. These were intentional decisions. Decisions that kept 3 wives and dozens of children out of the purported family fund. Kody's face turned red. He attempted a smile, but it came out more of a grimace. The second excuse, Christine's exaggerating, Kody spluttered out in a rush of words. This was paperwork. Technicalities. The trust fund was always for everybody. Robyn's name being there doesn't mean that it was just for her. She helped take care of things. She was the one I trusted with it. That word, trusted, lingered in the air like poison. Christine jumped on that right away. Trusted? You trusted one wife above all the rest. You trusted her for our future when the rest of us didn't even know what was going on. That ain't trust, Kody. That's betrayal. The judge arched an eyebrow, obviously not impressed with Kody's defense. He clicked his pen on the desk, indicating the defense was not working. The third excuse, playing the victim, Kody, sensing his earlier explanations were not being well received, changed strategies. His tone became louder, more pleading, attempting to regain the confidence that had slipped away. Me, under pressure? He snapped. You think this family was a cinch to handle? 4 wives, 18 children, with unlimited financial burdens. I had to make decisions. Hard ones. And sometimes that included not explaining everything. I carried the burden of this family on my shoulders while everybody else second-guessed me. He glanced around the courtroom, hoping for sympathy, but none materialized. The witnesses weren't accepting it. The judge wasn't accepting it. Christine most certainly wasn't accepting it. She leaned forward, her voice firm and unshakable. No, Kody, you didn't bear the load by yourself. We worked. We sacrificed. We struggled. And while we did that, you channeled money to Robyn's home and assured us everything was on even footing. You didn't bear us up. You betrayed us. The judge's interrogation. The judge, his face now stern, leaned forward. His tone was authoritative, his patience obviously frayed. Mr. Brown, the court is not present to hear excuses. The papers are explicit. Dates, figures, beneficiaries. All of them indicate intentional exclusion. Answer this question. Why were the other wives and the children excluded from the trust? Kody stuttered. He glanced at Robyn, who sat frozen in the gallery, avoiding his eye. For once there was no lifeline. He was on his own. I was trying to protect them, he finally admitted, his voice cracking. I figured if Robyn took the money, things would be safer, more organized. The judge scowled. Safer for whom, Mr. Brown? Because from my perspective, it sure appeared that it was only safer for one family. The courtroom exploded into whispers. The reality was evident. Kody's justifications were not going as planned. Kody loses control. A sense of panic dawning. Kody became belligerent. His tone became more aggressive. His voice louder. You don't know what it's like. Everybody always blames me. I did what I needed to do in order to keep this family intact. Christine left because she was never content. Janelle never believed me. Meri pulled away. And now I'm the bad guy. Because I tried to create something stable. The tirade only served to worsen the situation. His words placed him not as a great leader, but as a desperate person clinging to excuses. Christine firmly held her ground. You didn't attempt to keep us together, Kody. You attempted to keep us in control of you. And when that failed, you constructed a safety net for yourself and Robyn, and abandoned the rest of us to look after ourselves. Her words sliced through his tirade like a knife, immediately shutting him up. The audience turns. It wasn't just Christine. And the judge resisting by now, the courtroom crowd, composed of reporters, fans, and even in-laws, was visibly against Kody. The more excuses he made, the more attempts he made to spin the tale, the guiltier he appeared. The journalists wrote frantically, already crafting headlines that would ruin Kody's reputation. Terms such as betrayal, favoritism, and exposed were being muttered. Fans of Sister Wives had long suspected favoritism. They had watched Robyn receive privileges, larger homes, more of Kody's attention. But now, the financial evidence proved what they'd always suspected. It wasn't merely emotional favoritism. It was monetary manipulation. Christine's final blow. As Kody leaned back in his chair, visibly shaken, Christine landed the punch. This isn't about errors, Kody. This isn't about forms, this is about years of dishonesty. You promised us we were equals, but in your heart, in your decisions, in your money, we never were. And now the entire world can see it. The binder rests between them, a quiet testament to his dishonesty. And Kody knew it. Why his defense fell apart. Kody's defeat wasn't only the evidence, it was how he responded to it. In place of honesty, excuses. In place of accountability, victimhood. In place of defending his wives, defending Robyn. The courtroom wasn't fooled. Christine wasn't fooled. And now, neither was the world. By the session's end, Kody Brown's image forever changed. Gone was the self-assured patriarch of Sister Wives, replaced by the man who broke under pressure, whose deceptions were revealed, whose evasions couldn't excuse him. Christine emerged stronger. Kody emerged diminished. And the Brown family legacy was destroyed, piece by piece, in that courtroom. As Kody struggled, Robyn sat quietly in the viewing area, her face impassive. But the paperwork Christine produced showed her as the obvious recipient of Kody's financial manipulation. It was found that Robyn's house was bought with funds derived from the trust. The cost of her children's education was paid for. Even extravagant buys, things the other wives could only wish they could afford, were linked to money diverted into this hidden account. For years Robyn had fought off allegations that she was a favorite among the wives, insisting she never desired to take her place. But in the courtroom, the record indicated something different. She wasn't merely the favorite wife, she was the shielded wife, being protected financially as the others fell behind. Fans witnessing the drama on TV were appalled. Social media was abuzz with hashtags such as #TrustFundScandal, #Christine exposes Kody, and #Robyn knew. Shockwaves through the courtroom. As the judge's gavel rang out, the courtroom atmosphere was heavy with tension. Christine's binder had already altered everything, but what followed was even more incendiary. Everyone's eyes turned, not only on Kody, but on the woman who had quietly sat out it all. Robyn Brown. Years she had played the role of favorite, the wife who received more of Kody's attention, love, and money. Fans had suspected a difference in treatment, but they never dreamed of evidence of a shadow trust fund that paid her and her kids money straight out. All of a sudden, in the unforgiving light of courtroom flashbulbs and public opinion, Robyn was no longer merely Kody's subdued supporter. She was squarely in the middle of it all. Robyn's silent collapse. While Christine spoke her last words, Robyn's hands shook in her lap. Her eyes dropped below the level of the other wives, her face pale and pressed mouth tight, as if biting back words she dared not speak. To some in attendance, she appeared to be guilty. To others she seemed to be afraid. What was certain, however, was that Robyn was disintegrating under the pressure of revelation. When Christine repeated, "Why is Robyn's name the only one listed?" Robyn flinched visibly, as if she had been hit, her shoulders taut. She struggled to keep herself together, but the cameras registered each twitch, each look, each tear forming in her eyes. Christine's triumph, Robyn's humiliation. Christine didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her calm and steady composure made Robyn's silence even louder. It was the perfect contrast, one woman standing strong in truth, while another shrank in shame. The other wives, Janelle and Meri, observed intently. Janelle's face was a mixture of anger and hurt. She had always been pragmatic when it came to money, and now all her worst fears were realized. Meri, long isolated and estranged, looked less shocked and more vindicated. For years she had complained that she felt pushed aside, and here was evidence that she wasn't losing it. Robyn finally speaks. Finally, Robyn's silence was broken. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the judge. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't make Kody do this. I thought the fund was for everyone. I trusted him." But the words sounded empty. Christine quickly refuted. "Robyn, you didn't ask questions. You signed contracts. You purchased houses. You took gifts and assistance, when the rest of us were informed that there wasn't enough to go around. Can't you sit there and act like you weren't aware of what was occurring?" The courtroom stirred in agreement. For years Robyn had been cast as being innocent, as though favoritism had occurred to her, rather than due to her. But now, Christine's words made everyone wonder if Robyn was an accomplice, or merely willfully blind. The wives' reactions. Janelle. Her rage was tangible. She had labored for years, even forgoing her own monetary well-being for the family, to discover that her children's future had been set aside. Meri, while she had been cold and distant emotionally for years, she shook her head slowly, nearly whispering, "I knew it." To her this wasn't simply betrayal. It was validation of the reason she had always felt out of place. Christine? She was calm, but her words burned. This was never about unity. This was about power. And Robyn, whether you acknowledge it or not, you gained at the expense of the rest of us. The kids' perspective. What made the fallout even more heartbreaking was the ripple effect on the kids. Christine's children, most of whom had already voiced criticism against Kody in public, felt vindicated. They had long criticized their father as a favorite, and the documents confirmed them. Janelle's children were irate. They had watched their mother fight financially, while Robyn's family got new houses and material comforts. To them, this was not merely legal. It was personal. Meri's only child, Leon, had been estranged for years, but this revelation likely deepened the divide. It showed in black and white that their mother had been erased from financial security. Robyn's children, on the other hand, were in the most difficult spot. The trust fund was to them, to be a present, an insurance policy. Now it was a badge of shame. They didn't deserve to be treated differently, but they had been. The family tree was already broken. Now it felt shattered irrevocably. The media firestorm outside the courtroom. The media hung in wait like vultures. The press immediately spun the tale into sensationalized headlines. Christine exposes Kody's secret trust fund. Robyn named sale beneficiary. Other wives cut out. Brown family empire crumbles under court order. The media had a field day with all the details. Devoted Sister Wives fans overwhelmed social media, some supporting Christine, some calling for Robyn to be held accountable. Twitter threads, Facebook groups, and Reddit posts were ablaze with angry arguments. The viewers who had long suspected preferential treatment now had the proof. Robyn's well-rehearsed presentation as the peacemaker wife was destroyed within a day. Kody and Robyn retreat. Following the adjournment of court, Kody paced out, his face flushed with anger. Robyn was not far behind, hiding her eyes from the cameras. But even in retreat, The cracks were evident. For the first time, Kody did not hold Robyn's hand. They walked apart, their body language shouting division. Following behind them, Christine emerged smiling, not smugly, but with relief. Janelle trailed behind, her head held high, while Meri hung back, taking in the moment. For once the power balance had changed. Fans' emotional response. What made the fallout so captivating was that fans weren't just spectators. They felt personally invested. For over a decade, audiences had watched these women struggle, compromise and sacrifice in the name of family unity. Now it turned out their sacrifices had been in vain. The emotional betrayal resonated deeply with viewers, especially women who had once related to Christine, Janelle, and Meri's struggles. The scandal wasn't just reality TV drama. It became a story of justice, betrayal, and empowerment. Robyn's image in ruins. Perhaps the biggest fallout was Robyn's reputation. For years, she had portrayed herself as being misunderstood, in tears more often than not, insisting on nothing but harmony in the family. But Christine's testimony indicated otherwise. Even if Robyn hadn't orchestrated the trust fund, she had profited and was still living in comfort while the other wives were left struggling. Social media gave her nicknames, the Queen of the Empire and the Puppet Master. Memes went around, depicting her as the woman in silence who brought down the whole Brown family. The Browns' shattered future. The courtroom drama did not only reveal finances, it revealed the fractured foundation of the family. Was Kody and Robyn going to be able to fix their image after this? Would Janelle and Meri take legal action for getting their share? Would Christine's courageous move encourage the kids to sever ties for good with Kody? These were among the many questions that hung in the balance, and fans knew the answers would not be forthcoming soon. One thing, however, was certain. The family would never be the same again. The symbolic ending. As the day came to a close, one moment encapsulated it all. Cameras recorded Christine exiting the courthouse with her daughter in hand. Behind her, Kody and Robyn pushed past reporters, their heads bowed, refusing to answer questions. That one photo said it all. Christine walking in the light of truth, Robyn and Kody backing away in the shadows of scandal. The backlash wasn't economic. It was moral, emotional, symbolic. The empire they had worked so hard to establish was falling apart, not because of external enemies, but due to secrets within. And amidst the wreckage, one thing was certain. Christine had revealed it all, and Robyn would never be the same. For Janelle and Meri, Christine's disclosures were a gut blow. Both women had lived for years in financial limbo, engaging in business ventures and second jobs to feed their families. Janelle especially had sunk a lot of money into the Kody Pass land, with visions of one day being able to turn it into a family compound. But Christine's testimony revealed that funds from the sales of land were funneled, not into the family dream property, but into Robyn's security. Meri, who frequently felt marginalized in the marriage, now had proof that her sacrifices were never appreciated. The family she had helped create had virtually left her broke, and Robyn enjoyed the rewards. It wasn't betrayal. It's theft of trust, love, and years of devotion. The final day in court, the courtroom was packed to the brim. After weeks of testimony, shocking revelations, and endless speculation, the moment of truth had finally arrived. Everyone sat on the edge of their seats. Fans, reporters, family members, all waiting for the judge to deliver his ruling on the scandal that had shattered the Brown family. Kody sat rigidly in his chair, jaw clenched, face pale. Robyn sat forward, her hand holding tissues, her eyes already brimming with tears. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat as one on the other side, a united front after years of fragmentation. Today, they weren't just sister wives. Today, they were allies. The judge fiddled with papers, pushed his glasses up his nose, and started talking. The court's verdict. This court has reviewed the evidence, the financial records, and the testimony presented. It is clear that Mr. Brown failed to disclose the existence of a trust fund meant to represent the entire family's financial future. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The judge continued, his voice firm. It is also obvious that the fund was designed in such a manner as to disproportionately benefit one wife and her kids, at the expense of the others. That was not inadvertent, that was purposeful mismanagement. Gasps filled the room. Christine looked over at Janelle and Meri, and for the first time in years, they smiled at one another. Small smiles of vindication. The judge summed up. Thus, this court directs the trust fund to be revoked and distributed fairly amongst all concerned. All wives and children are to have an equal share. Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown are hereby directed to reveal all property and be transparent with all assets going forward. It was a milestone decision. Justice, long delayed, had come at last. Kody's reaction, a shattered patriarch. The decision came crashing down on Kody, his expression contorted with rage, yet he could not lash out. The law had been spoken, and no amount of yelling, blaming or making excuses could reverse it. Kody had been the patriarch, the leader, the man who thought he was in charge for years. But in that instant he seemed tiny, beaten, powerless. His reputation as the patriarch of the Brown clan was ruined, not by the outside world, not by adversaries, but by his own decisions. Robyn's collapse. If Kody seemed shattered, Robyn seemed shattered. Tears flowed from her eyes as she blotted her tears with a tissue, her entire body shaking. To her, this wasn't about cash. It was about perception. She had played years of wearing the peacemaker hat, wearing the misunderstood wife who never coveted special treatment. But the verdict was the opposite. Whether she intended or not, she was the only one who benefited from Kody's infidelity. The cameras caught her crying as Christine, Janelle, and Meri passed by her without looking her way. Robyn was alone for the first time, rejected by the wives and by the audience at home. Christine's victory. Christine's journey had finally come full circle. From being the wife who was made to feel invisible, shoved aside and unimportant, she emerged as the truth bearer, the whistleblower, the woman who fought for justice. Her binder of documents had torn down the empire of lies. Her courage had brought equality to her children, and to the children of Janelle and Meri. And as she walked out of the courtroom, reporters shouted her name, cameras flashed, fans online hailed her as a hero. Christine hadn't just left Kody, she had exposed him. Janelle's quiet strength. For Janelle, the ruling was deeply personal. She had carried much of the financial burden over the years, often sacrificing her own comfort for the family's future. To now be recognized and given equal standing was both vindicating and heartbreaking. She didn't cry, she didn't shout, she simply nodded in relief. Her practical nature had carried her through the chaos, and now justice had rewarded her endurance. Meri's vindication. For Meri, who had been excluded for so long, the ruling was bittersweet. She had been emotionally and financially marginalized for years, but now, the evidence could not be denied. She had been intentionally excluded. The decision didn't heal the wounds of years, but it legitimized the pain. It proved to the world that she wasn't a bitter or paranoid person. She had been correct all along. The children's future. Perhaps the most important outcome of the verdict was its impact on the children. Christine's kids now had financial protection that had once been denied to them. Janelle's children, who had often felt abandoned, now saw their mother's sacrifices finally recognized. Meri's child, Leon, could take solace in knowing their mother's erasure had been exposed. Robyn's children, though, had been given the most difficult truth. What was once their safety net was no longer their own alone. They hadn't requested favoritism, but they'd grown up enjoying it, and now the books had been balanced. The decision guaranteed equality for everyone, but it also widened the cracks between the siblings, who now realized in black and white how split their father had kept them. The public's judgment. The court's decision was only half of the legacy. The other half was from the court of public opinion, and it was merciless. Headlines blared across every major publication. Kody Brown mandated to divide secret trust fund. Christine uncovers betrayal. Court sides with her. Robyn's empire falls apart under scandal. Social media went into overdrive. Twitter hashtags such as #TeamChristine, #Justice for Janelle, and #Meri was right trended for days on end. Memes featuring Kody's stunned face in court were shared far and wide, making him a joke. Viewers who had previously liked the family for their nonconformist lifestyle now viewed them as a cautionary tale of secrecy, favoritism, and betrayal. The legacy of Kody Brown. When individuals reflected on Kody Brown, following this scandal, they no longer saw the father who once preached about love and unity. They saw a man who tore his own family apart by choosing control and favoritism over fairness. His legacy wasn't the big plural family he created. It wasn't the TV celebrity he achieved. His legacy was the scandal that destroyed it all. The trust fund, the favoritism, the courtroom loss. And despite all of his efforts to clear his name in the years ahead, the verdict was indelibly marked on his reputation. The legacy of Robyn Brown. The legacy affected Robyn as well. Gone was the favorite wife. She once was replaced by the woman who profited from betrayal. Her sobbing in court couldn't erase the image of her being the exclusive beneficiary of Kody's trust fund. Complicit or not, the world regarded her as the mastermind behind the scheme. Her reputation as the peacemaker was destroyed. Her image as the innocent wife was shattered. She became, in the eyes of many, the symbol of the family's downfall. Christine, Janelle, and Meri's legacy. But out of the rubble came three women whose legacies rose stronger. Christine, the truth warrior. The wife who walked away and revealed all. She emerged as a symbol of empowerment. Not only for viewers of the show, but for women across the globe who had felt silenced.
Janelle,
The steadfast rock. The practical wife whose sacrifices were acknowledged at last. Her strength of quiet resolve, shown as an example for those who suffer in silence, hoping for justice. Meri. The wife who was forgotten and finally vindicated. Her years of isolation were no longer invisible. They were confirmed in court. Her strength became her legacy. The family's future. The verdict did not heal everything. The Browns were too broken, too divided, too wounded. Relationships would still be strained, and the kids would continue feeling the ripple effects for the rest of their lives. But something was certain. The truth had finally come out. No more deceits. No more backdoor favoritism. The Brown clan, once known for their out-of-the-box love, would now be remembered forever for the scandal that revealed their secrets. The final image as Christine exited the courthouse, head held high, hand in hand with her daughter. Cameras snapped and fans applauded. Kody and Robyn brought up the rear, slipping out through a side door, dodging the media. Empire destroyed. That photo, Christine, emerging into the light as Kody and Robyn disappeared into darkness, summed up the whole legacy. The truth had prevailed. The wives had won, and the empire of secrecy, favoritism and betrayal that Kody and Robyn built had finally crumbled.